attack in Westminster yesterday as Khalid Masood. Born in Kent in 1964, he of course died in the attack. He was a man with a range of previous convictions. In fact, his first conviction was as early as November 1983 for criminal damage. His last conviction was in December 2003 for possession of a knife. And there are other, as yet unspecified, public order offences that took place between those times. He was not just known to the police and the courts, he was known to MI5 as well, although at no point had he either been convicted or suspected of any terrorist offences. ISIS, of course, have claimed the attack as theirs. London today, well, I've been here all day and I've noticed that people are pretty much getting about their business. Traffic's difficult, obviously still with road closures, but there's been a pretty phlegmatic approach, I would say, from Londoners. But as we speak, there is a vigil going on for the victims of this horrible, horrific act in Trafalgar Square. My LBC colleague Sheila Fogarty is down there. Sheila, good evening.
Good evening to you, Nigel. When you say the vigil is ongoing, you're right and wrong all at the same time, in a sense. The formal part of the vigil is over. It was rather brief. Those three speeches that were made, we'll hear from the London Mayor Sadiq Khan in just a moment. But what's happened is that I would say about a third of the crowd has remained. Some people have thrown roses into the fountains here. Other people are just lighting candles. There's some sort of makeshift low sand pits that were erected so people could place the tea light candles in them. And people are staying to do that. They're staying just to talk to police officers, talk to one another. There are some people with some banners as well that they want whoever is here to still be reading. But earlier on there was a very prayerful atmosphere, actually, a very quiet, very sombre, very respectful atmosphere here when the dignitaries, leaders from the political world, the world of policing and the world of politics, of course, as well. And earlier on Ian Dale's Drive Time show, the London Mayor Sadiq Khan had this to say.
Well, we are an incredible city full of amazing people from all different backgrounds, and when Londoners face adversity, we pull together, we stand up for our values and our shared way of life. And what today is about, Ian, is Londoners and visitors have been sort of wondering, how can we show solidarity, how can we show defiance, and how can we show those evil and twisted individuals who seek to destroy our shared values and our way of life, that they're never going to succeed and that we condemn them. And what's remarkable about today, there's a number of things remarkable about today, is how in the space of a few hours, thousands and thousands of Londoners and visitors have come together. We should be incredibly proud that today in Trafalgar Square there are tens and thousands of people coming together, all different ethnicities, all different religions, all different backgrounds, and showing what it takes to be a Londoner. And that's why I say with pride, I'm mayor of the greatest city in the world.
Well, my thanks to Sheila Fogarty, who, of course, you can hear every day from 1 till 4 p.m. every afternoon, Monday to Friday, on LBC. So you've heard the Mayor of London talking about solidarity. Jeremy Corbyn said, "We are united by our humanity to stand together." Theresa May insists that the forces of evil would never be allowed to drive us apart. So our leaders say we are united. But are we? To get involved in this, call me on 0345 60 60 973. Text me at 84850. You can tweet me on @LBC, not forgetting the hashtag Farage and LBC, and you can watch us live on LBC's Facebook page. And our first caller this evening to answer this question of whether we are united as a country in response to yesterday is Sanjay, who's calling from Loughborough. Sanjay, good evening.
Hi, Nigel, you all right?
Well, I'm a little bit depressed by it all, aren't you?
Yeah, I am as well. I don't think we're united at all. To be honest with you, I think we're completely apart. And I like to divide it into three separate groups. First of all, you've got left-wingers who are completely in denial, who just keep shouting racism, bigotry, fascism to the people who want to talk facts. Now, the other group are the right-wing. Now, I don't want to go as far as saying right-wing. What I want to say is people who talk facts. Like, I'll give you an example, Tommy Robinson, just somebody who just talks facts for a second.
Well, Sanjay,
yeah.
I don't know whether you saw the clip of Tommy Robinson down on the embankment yesterday. Whether he was talking facts or not, he was shouting very loudly and getting extremely angry. I'm not actually sure that in terms of tone that was necessarily helpful when the bodies were still lying on the bridge.
Yeah, I sort of agree, but I think he was just more passionate than anything. Okay, so then you got the third group, which is the Muslims, which is in the middle. Now, I'm not blaming all Muslims, Nigel. All I'm saying is this. Look, majority of Muslims are human beings. The problem is Islam. Now, all I want to say is this. I don't feel Muslims do enough to condemn it. And the reason I say that is I'm sitting there talking over the phone, oh, I don't agree with it, or notinmyname.com, all that nonsense is not enough. Because the same Muslims who go out and shout on the streets if a council refuses to build a mosque or something, and they go shouting on the streets in a group of gang, where are those people when these sorts of things happen? I don't see it.
Well, Sanjay, I mean, surely the evidence is, the polling evidence is, that whilst there, and we've seen this, going right back to the underground bombings in London, that there is a minority percentage of Muslims who appear to have some sympathy for this behaviour. A lot of it, I have to say, in response to what happened in Iraq and elsewhere. But the vast, vast, vast majority of British Muslims, many born, not all, but many born here, when they're asked this question, Sanjay, say that they do support the values of this country. Is it those people, you're saying, need to be more vociferous in speaking out against evil?
Yes, you're right. I do agree with that. Yes, they're the people. But at the same time, Nigel, I feel that the majority of Muslims are intolerant. And let me explain why. Because how many of these majority of Muslims will ever admit that Islam is an intolerant Arab idea?
Well, Sanjay, Sanjay, you've had your say. You've said some very strong things, and I'm going to appeal to practising Muslims, please, to answer Sanjay's charge. Sanjay is saying that too many of you are actually deeply intolerant, and that those that aren't are not speaking out sufficiently. It's a very, very strong point of view. I wonder what Ibrahim in Slough makes of that. Ibrahim, good evening.
Good evening, Nigel. I'm not, just to start off with the point of I'm a Muslim.
Yep.
I'm not embarrassed by this cowardly person who's committed this crime in the name of Islam, because to me he's not a Muslim. And he's not part of my circle, so to speak. So for me to
well, Ibrahim, I mean, I do hear this argument, but I mean, something over the last few decades seems to have happened within this religion, and there are people out there. You don't want to identify with them, and I get that, and I'm delighted that you say that, but they believe they are Muslims.
Can I explain why?
You do, please.
I know the answer for this. I don't know why a caller hasn't called up saying this. Now, we could take it back to political warfare in Iraq, Afghanistan, and places like this. It's all started from that, and it's sprung on. Now, what's happened is there's individuals out there that I do feel sorry for, innocent people, that the armies have accidentally or on purpose, it's arguable, it's debatable. I'd say most of the time, hopefully, it is accidental, but bombs have killed off their families. Bombs have, wiped out whole communities, and not all of them are terrorists. There may be 3, 4 lived in that community that were targeted by the bombs, but there's going to be civilian casualties.
Well, of course, Ibrahim, of course, and I do understand that. But I mean, do you see there is a division within Islam itself?
No, I don't see it as a division, so to speak. These are extremists that are not Muslims. Yes, they carry out in the name of Islam to benefit them. It's almost like you read a book, and instead of understanding the book and where it's actually coming from, these chaps, well, the real concern for me is sorry to say this, but these bloody, I'm gonna.
Whoa there, yeah.
I'm very passionate about this. These people that are preaching it all, they're the ones that are saying to young people or older people, in this case, this man is 52.
Yep.
In the case to say, look, we're getting bombed all over the place here. We're the people who are victims here. We're the people, the British Army's killed our people. The Americans have killed our people. We need to do something about it. This is where these people are picking at a point.
Well, I think
they're brainwashing very weak people.
Ibrahim, I think you're right to some extent. I also have to say, and I have spoken to some real experts on this subject, that the Saudis, the rich Saudis, have actually been funding some of the most extreme interpretations, Ibrahim, of a religion that you're proud to be part of. And thank you for speaking out the way that you just have. I'm going to go to Abdul. Abdul in Limehouse. Is there a division within Islam?
Just, Nige, first time speaking to you, mate.
Good evening.
Good evening, mate. What it is, I'm just a bit annoyed, to be honest, to be quite frank and honest with you. I'm a born and brought up East Ender.
Yep.
Yeah. And that scumbag who's killed innocent lives, okay, he's not done it under my religion. He might say he's a Muslim, but to be honest with you, he's not a Muslim. Because in Islam, it says that you can't kill innocent people. Do you understand? So that's where my frustration lies.
Well, there are,
Abdul, under my religion.
Abdul, there are people who, in the name of the Bible and Christianity, would advocate forms of behaviour that we would now find completely unacceptable living in a modern Christian interpretation. I think the difficulty, Abdul, are some of the later bits of the Quran. Is that not right?
No, well, I'm not really knowledgeable with the Quran, mate. You know what I mean? I'm not really...
okay.
I can't read the Quran myself, you know what I mean? But generally speaking, this person who's killed innocent lives, that could have been my brother. It could have been my sister.
Sure.
You understand? That's the standpoint I'm looking at.
Sure. And tell me, Abdul, are you a practising Muslim?
I'm not practising. No, I'm not practising.
Right, you're Muslim-born.
I'll go to the Friday prayers and that, but I try and pray if I've got the time. You know what I mean? I'm being frank and honest with you.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean? But you know what I mean? That idiot who's killed innocent lives, mate. You know what I mean? And that's where, you know what I mean? It's a backlash now.
Yeah.
You know
do you feel, Abdul? Do you feel, you know, I mean, given that you feel very strongly about this, do you feel the country as a whole is united behind its leaders on this issue?
I do think everyone's united. London's a multicultural place. You know what I mean? You've got all different kind of Hinduism, Sikhism, you've got Christianism, you've got all kind of religion. My neighbours are Christians. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, my next door, they're Jamaicans. You know what I mean? We're living together, but you know what I mean? These people who do these things, you know what I mean, do it for their own greed. You know what I mean? They're not doing it for religious purposes.
Would you, Abdul?
Islam don't teach that.
Would you, Abdul, as a Muslim, a reasonably practising Muslim, would you agree with those that say we should be very, very careful about who we let into this country from Afghanistan or Syria or, Somalia? Would you agree with that interpretation or not?
I wouldn't agree to that because what you're doing now, Nigel, you're tarnishing, you know what I mean, a whole Muslim community. You understand? Because there's good and bad in every country.
Of course. No, I get that.
When you start dividing, that's where the problem lies. Because what happens is when you start dividing, the good ones start to get a bad impression.
Abdul, I thank you for all that you've said. I have a feeling that actually majority opinion is not with you on that particular point, but I do understand why you make it. You're listening to The Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's 7:15.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.
Joined by London Mayor Sadiq Khan joins me now. Mr Mayor, what's your message to Londoners?
We've seen what's happened to other cities around the world, and the important thing is not to be complacent, to always be vigilant, because we've got to adapt and evolve to keep us safe, just like the terrorists adapt and evolve to try and harm us and destroy us and divide our communities.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast, every weekday morning from 7, only on LBC.
With Hampton by Hilton, making you welcome at over 40 hotels in Europe.
Selling is just as easy as buying on eBay.
Oh, Liz, you're such a hoarder. There's so much stuff in this wardrobe, some have even got new tags. I mean, when was the last time you fitted into these?
Leather trousers.
Look at the heels on those.
Vintage platform shoes.
And how many of these do you need?
Designer handbags.
And what is this?
Dazzling disco jumpsuits. With millions of buyers ready and waiting, there's no better place for you to sell than eBay. The ultimate way to streamline your wardrobe shop.
The high-quality kitchen you've dreamed of at a price well within your budget. That's Room Sense.
That's Room Sense.
Right now, Room Sense is offering stunning kitchens at half price, with free appliances worth over £1,000. See roomsense.co.uk.
Quality at a price you can afford. That's Room Sense.
Minimum spend applies.
This is a live update for UK businesses. Right now, the world wants UK services and specialist knowledge. From innovative payment solutions to iconic architecture and trusted professional advice. Share your expertise with the world. Search Exporting is Great.
Tomorrow, you could be flying a fleet of Boeing 777s and A380s to over 150 destinations around the world, all from your sunny base in Dubai. Emirates is hiring qualified, experienced pilots to work for one of the world's fastest-growing airlines. You'll enjoy a tax-free salary, along with generous housing, education and health benefits. Meet our recruitment team at our London Roadshow and speak to our pilots to see what an Emirates life is like. Visit emirates.com/pilots for dates and times.
If your company is considering a merger or acquisition, it's time to start thinking about how your office space will cope. Speak to Maris Interiors, the experts in office design and fit-out. Initial consultations, design ideas and budgets are provided without charge and will show you all the available options. To arrange a meeting or find out more about what we can do for you, visit officerelocation.co.uk. Maris. Workplace. Design. Experts.
Save 15% with discount code MUM at zingflowers.com.
Zing flowers are amazing every time.
Relax and embark on a journey from BT to Post Office Home Phone. Free yourself from BT's prices and picture paying just $14.99 a month. Experience calm and keep your number. Breathe in affordable line rental. Breathe out your old provider. Search Post Office Home Phone or visit your local branch for better value line rental. Post Office Home Phone. Sorted. Offer ends 3rd of the 4th, 2017. $14.99 a month for 12 months and $16.99 a month thereafter. No minimum term contract. Full terms at postoffice.co.uk/home phone.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC.
Well, our leaders are saying that we're united, and I'm asking the question, are we really? Now, we've talked in the first part of this programme about divisions that exist within the religion. And there are two types, of course, of terrorist problem. One is homegrown, as this one is. The other ones, of course, are rather like Berlin or Paris, where people have come in posing as migrants. I think there is a big division here between what our politicians are saying about yesterday's attack, the way our media are presenting the feelings of this nation after our attack, and the way, actually, that ordinary folk are feeling. I'm not for one moment suggesting that people today in London themselves were divided, quite the reverse. But I think there is a big, big gap, and people are asking questions, what is going to be done? This division between what leaders say and how people think was highlighted extraordinarily last month by Chatham House, the independent research group, who surveyed more than 10,000 people from 10 major European states. And they basically asked them, after President Trump's executive order, but they took it further, and they asked the question, should all further migration from mainly Muslim countries be stopped? And the results were astonishing. 71% of people in Poland said yes. 65% in Austria said yes. 53% in Germany said yes. 51% in Italy said yes. The United Kingdom was in the lower quartile at 47%. So that is public support across 10 major European countries, 55% of them saying they want all immigration from these countries stopped completely, which goes way further than anything that Donald Trump has suggested. And what I'm sensing is that people are saying, look, frankly, through irresponsibility, our politicians have caused much of this problem. Through weakness, we haven't dealt with issues. We haven't dealt with the growth of extremism because we've been too afraid to be called racist. And I think there is a problem here. I think the public are getting really pretty upset. Yes, of course, every time something horrendous happens in Paris or Berlin or London, everyone lines up to condemn what has happened. Everyone extends their sympathy to the families and the bravery of police officers, and I get that. I sense the public is looking for some solutions, and that, to me, is the real division that exists out there. But let me know, please, whether you agree or disagree with that. Let me know if you're born Muslim, you're practicing Muslim, and how you feel about this problem. I'm going to go next to Junaid in Westminster. Good evening.
Hi, Nigel. I'm just calling because I can only speak of my own, experiences.
Sure.
So I'm born in Paddington. I'm a Muslim. I try to practice as much as I can. And actually work in Westminster, so the area where the attacks happened, and I have worked in the House of Commons before.
Okay.
To be honest, when I heard this yesterday, I felt like a lump in my throat. I immediately messaged my friends in the Commons to see if they were okay, and luckily they were okay.
Yes.
And for me, as a Londoner, I feel London is very united. I received messages from friends of different faiths and different backgrounds, and that's very good to know. I just just logically, I find it so difficult to understand what drives a person to do this. As I'm sure, for example, would you ever do that? I'm sure you wouldn't. How can somebody become that brainwashed, that silly, that stupid to actually go along this kind of path and end up where they were?
Well, it's happening though, isn't it? It's happening, and it's happening. We're seeing this sort of stuff happening. It's happened in many countries in Europe. I mean, I do agree with you about Londoners today from all backgrounds actually feeling very united in a sense. We're going to crack on. We're not going to let this, stop us getting about our lives. But do you sort of understand why I'm saying I think that whilst we may be united, we want our politicians to do rather more about this? I mean, the Mayor of London, I said 6 months ago that attacks like this are part and parcel of living in modern big cities. And I think I want to hear more than that. I want to hear we're straining everything we've got through our security services, through the vetting of people who come to Britain. We're straining everything to try and prevent this from ever happening again. I just sense, Ginny, that we want more from our leaders.
Of course, I think, I don't agree with all of your policies, but I think from our leaders what we should expect is complete honesty and them being straightforward with us.
Yes.
There's a lot of issues. What I've noticed is, especially with the person that did the attack here in London, and also I think some of the guys that did the attacks in France or was it Belgium, they've got a lot of criminal backgrounds as well.
Well, that's right. That's absolutely right. Criminal backgrounds, and interestingly, drug use is something that has cropped up again and again and again with people that have committed some of these terrorist acts. So you feel that London is divided, but you agree with me, a bit more honesty perhaps from our politicians would be good.
Yeah, I think honesty in all aspects of our politics, not just immigration or anything like that. Even though I disagree with immigration, I think they should be honest about the policies, don't go back on promises. I think that's just what people want when you vote for something.
And perhaps occasionally to admit we might have made some mistakes in terms of multiculturalism finishing up meaning not different people living together in one community, but maybe just a little bit too much division. Junetta, thank you very much indeed for your call. Your texts and tweets coming in. How can you ask if we are united when you ran the most divisive campaign? From Farik. Well, actually, sorry to disappoint you, but this specific issue of Islamic terrorism wasn't a major part of why we voted to leave the European Union. It was significant that Mrs. Merkel had opened the door irresponsibly, but I would say this was more about numbers and it was more about control. The Chatham question was a bad binary question. Anyone that isn't happy now only has an extreme option. From UKThinkTank.com. Well, fine, but this was organised by a couple of well-respected professors in political science. I have to say, I was pretty shocked by the results, at the sheer numbers of people who wanted a total ban. And I would answer with respect that I think there is a very, very big gap between what our politicians intend to do and what people now actually want. And a tweet here, I have no problem with Muslim immigration. All attacks in the UK were UK born and bred. Stop spreading hate, says Londoner, not in my name. Look, the point is this. We already have a problem in this country. Why on earth would we wish to add to it by allowing more people in who could do such things? And we've seen that. We've seen it in France. We've seen it in Germany. We've seen it in Belgium. And, when ISIS say they will use the migrant tide across the Mediterranean, one that I suspect may get bigger now that we've fallen out very badly with Turkey, when ISIS say they will use that route to flood the continent with their operatives, I suggest we ought perhaps to take them seriously. I'm going to go to Ahmed in Cardiff. Ahmed, good evening. Are we divided?
Definitely we are divided. Let me just start by saying I'm an ex-Muslim. I was born in a moderate Islamic family.
Yes.
And the root here is not Muslims. Muslims are, as one of your ex-guests said, are like me and you, normal people. The problem is Islam itself. Islam traditionally in history is a very violent ideology. The problem we are making here is we are subconsciously not aware of law-abiding matters and our religious background, and this is where the mistakes happen. I was interested in one of your ex-speakers, what he said, the brainwashed people. Actually, the brainwashed people are what me and you call the good Muslims. The people who bomb and do all these atrocities are actually the people who are following the teaching of Islam. Let me just explain something to you. 99% of people have never read the Quran, don't understand it. In fact, more than 60% of Muslims are not Arabic speaking. There are verses in the Quran itself which say fight the non-believers. It does not say give them flowers, speak to them. It says fight the non-believers.
Ahmed, am I not right? I did ask an earlier caller this, but he clearly, he hadn't studied the Quran. Am I not right in saying that it's the latter parts of the Quran that contain this stuff?
Precisely. When Muhammad was in Mecca, he was a weak person. He did not have the power to influence anything. Eventually, when he moved to Medina, he managed to get whatever army he managed to do, and he started to conquer Arabia. And with that progress, he sort of invaded all of North Africa, Persia.
Yeah. Well, that is Ahmed. That is exactly my understanding of it. Quick question for you: does, in your opinion, Islam need its own reformation?
No, it needs eradication.
Eradication.
It's not flexible. Yeah, it's as long as here is my question to the politician: how many fatalities? I just need a number. How many fatalities need to happen before somebody face the truth and just say, right, okay, we need to face this cancer? That is
a absolutely fascinating phone call, very strong. I'm sure it's going to provoke an absolute tide of response. I'm going to go quickly to Joe in Croydon. Joe, we haven't got long before the news, but please make your point.
Okay, just on a few points that Ahmed said. First of all, your question, are we united? No, we are very much divided. I do read the Quran regularly. I'm a practicing Muslim. I pray 5 times a day. I'd like Ahmed to maybe tweet you or message you and show me where does it say to take innocent life. Now, Islam does give you the right to defend yourself, like any religion would do. Now, what I would encourage non-Muslims to do is go to their local mosque. They're more than welcome to learn a bit about the religion, rather than just listening to people like Ahmed and other people that just jump on the bandwagon when it comes to, when obviously people are labelled Islamic terrorists. Go to your local mosque.
So, Joe, are you saying, in contrast to what Ahmed just said, who was a Muslim, who gave up the religion, are you saying to me that you go regularly and practice in your mosque and that it is a religion of peace?
Absolutely. Without a shadow of a doubt. I'd like anyone to...
Joe, thank you. I'm sorry, I've run out of time. But interesting, the last 2 phone calls, both people born and raised as Muslims with very, very different interpretations of what that religion means. Joe, I thank you for your call. You're listening to The Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's 7:30 and time for the news with Rupert Bartier.
Thousands of people have gathered in London's Trafalgar Square to remember the victims of the Westminster terror attack. London's Mayor Sadiq Khan has told LBC it was a fitting tribute.
We should be incredibly proud that today in Trafalgar Square there are tens and thousands of people coming together, all different ethnicities, all different religions, all different backgrounds, and showing what it takes to be a Londoner. And that's why I say with pride, I'm mayor of the greatest city in the world.
3 people were killed, 5 are still in a critical condition in hospital, 2 have life-threatening injuries. The attacker has been named as 52-year-old Khalid Massoud. He was born in Kent, but has recently been living in the West Midlands. Stay with LBC for the very latest through the evening. LBC weather. Any rain dying out tonight, a low of 1 Celsius. Tomorrow, dry and sunny in most areas, a high of 11 degrees.
LBC Travel, good evening. I'm Anne-Marie Walsh. In Westminster, all approaches to Parliament Square remain closed for the ongoing police investigation, including Millbank, Whitehall, Great George Street and Victoria Street. Trafalgar Square is also closed for a vigil which has taken place, affecting the Strand from Waterloo Bridge, Pall Mall, the Mall and Northumberland Avenue. And there are delays on surrounding routes, including all around Westminster, Lambeth and Waterloo. And there are also delays over Waterloo Bridge. That's not helped by the ongoing closure closure of the Strand underpass. In Hampshire and on the M27, there's a lane closed westbound between junction 12 for Portsmouth and 11 for Fareham. That's because a lorry has broken down. For more real-time traffic updates, go to lbc.co.uk.
This is LBC.
In an age where we can connect right around the world, training our eyes and ears closer to home can be the most powerful tool in overcoming terror threats.
The first thing we're thinking about is maybe someone preparing for an act of terrorism. So you live or work around a shopping centre or industrial park, and if you see something unusual, it might be someone doing reconnaissance. What might they be doing? They might be taking unusual notice of security arrangements or CCTV cameras. Trust your instinct and please contact us.
If you notice anything suspicious, act on your instincts and report it. Find out more at lbc.co.uk.
Who's Off helps you to easily manage your staff leave, holiday and sickness, no matter what your company size. Start your free trial today at who'soff.com.
In any club, performance has its rewards. From approval to achievement to satisfaction. But right now for Shell Drivers Club members, performance has an extra reward. Because when you fill up with Shell V-Power Nitro Plus, our best performance fuel, you'll get triple points for every litre you buy. Visit your local Shell service station today. Terms and conditions apply. Promotion ends 29th of March. Please see shell.co.uk/triple points/terms.
Do you have a pension? Maybe you've got more than one. How do you know if they're in the right pension funds, making as much money as possible for your retirement? Answer is, you probably don't. At The Pension Works, our fully qualified independent financial advisors could add instant value to your retirement fund. Simply text the word YES to 83222 for your free Pension Works health check. That's YES to 83222 today. Your pensions working harder with The Pension Works.
Did you know that half of all of Canada's grizzly bears call British Columbia their home? Book with Canadian Affair and tailor-make your trip with their expert Canada know-how. Celebrate Canada's 150th birthday and save up to £200 per person. Plus, get £150 of holiday vouchers per couple, with holidays departing direct from London. Get your Canada know-how with CanadianAffair.com. Sale ends April 3rd.
This is a live update for UK businesses. Every day, millions of consumers are shopping online for quality UK goods. And right now, some of the world's leading online marketplaces have reduced selling costs for UK businesses. To enjoy these exclusive discounts and to find the right online marketplace for you, search Exporting is Great.
Your business is growing. Fantastic. But you need to hire fast. Enter Indeed.com. Already used by over 3 million businesses for hiring. And with more people in the UK using Indeed than any other job site, you'll find more great candidates and sooner on Indeed. Find your next hire on the world's #1 job site, Indeed.com. Terms, conditions, quality standards and usage limits apply. World's #1 job site based on total unique visitors to Indeed.com.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC.
So in response to the horrors of yesterday, our political leaders are saying that we are united. And I'm asking, are we really? I have a sense that public opinion is in a very different place to our leaders in Westminster and much of our media. I think public opinion wants action and wants it fast. But what is really fascinating about the calls, the texts and the tweets we're getting this evening is there are some very big different interpretations of what the Islamic religion means and what it says. And certainly on our Facebook messaging page and elsewhere, there's sort of an air war going on between Muslim followers with very, very different interpretations. I'm going to go to Shahid in Hemel Hempstead. Shahid, are we divided from our politicians, and is Islam itself divided in this country?
Right, I've got a number of points I'd like to make as quickly as possible. First of all, any decent person would condemn a terrorist attack, and they wouldn't go around generalising against any Muslims. I heard some of the callers that Ian Dell had, and I understand where they're coming from, where they say they're embarrassed and all that kind of stuff, or they're ashamed. It is wary being a Muslim, if you're especially of Pakistani or Bangladeshi origin, because if you grew up in the 70s or before like I did, first of all, you had the racism. And then after 9/11, people started finding a convenient substitute for their racism to generalise about Muslims. They know that most Muslims come from Pakistan and Bangladesh, and then generically they refer to us as the P word. But no, we shouldn't be ashamed, because, look, my example, I'm 40 years old. I went to mosque every single day as long as I weren't ill, and I don't recall being ill. From 1982, when I was 6, all the way to about April 1992, 1982 to 1992.
Yep.
For 10 years, right? Not once. Many different imams went to different mosques, because there were different like mosque sites within Hempstead. Went to the one in Walthamstow where there's like celebration of the Prophet Muhammad. Never once did any imam or anyone ever say to me, you know, your real purpose in life is to go around killing the non-believers, to blow yourself up one day.
Shahid, I don't doubt what you say for one moment. But isn't the problem that there are some strains that have emerged within the religion, and I was sort of postulating earlier, funded in many cases with Saudi money? We have had hate preachers in this country, have we not?
Okay, well, what I would say is this, in response, and I want to respond to that Ahmed as well. If a murderer started saying, I'm allowed to do the act of murder, and he brings up a case where somebody got off on a technicality, you and society would not give that person credence. When terrorists go around using Islam as a cover, we shouldn't give them credence, A, because you're giving credence to terrorists, and B, they are killing fellow Muslims as well. My country,
I know.
My country of origin of Pakistan has had tens of thousands of military and civilian casualties, where the UK, I'm glad about this, is less than 100. But don't go around giving credence to terrorists, because they are terrorists. Give credence.
No, I get that, Shahid. Yeah. I get everything you're saying. I understand everything you're saying, but I think the point needs repeating, that the people who are committing these acts believe themselves, wrongly, in your view, that they are doing it in the name of Islam, and that seems to me to be where the problem is. Your Facebook messages, at least those that I can read out, John says, we are not governed by religion in the UK, we are governed by the law. Religion should be a personal belief. And Lee asks, more united, what have we done to unite since 7/7? That's quite a sobering thought. I'm going to ask Sherry in Hampstead whether she thinks the nation is united and our political leaders are right, or whether perhaps, my view that actually we think our politicians aren't doing enough is the right one.
Good evening, Nigel. It's so lovely to talk to you. I think we are not together at all. We are a totally divided nation. Totally divided. I was absolutely disgusted to see on the news last night that deputy policeman saying that when somebody was dying on the street, that the main cause of the police was to look after the Muslim community. They do not assimilate with us at all. Queen's Park, where I live, there's 5 schools in a row. Everybody's walking down the road. You cannot see their faces. They have nothing in common with us. I grew up when we all went to Sunday school. We lived in a Christian country. We celebrated Christmas. Nobody has asked us if we wanted this to happen to our country. Not one of those politicians has asked me or my family if we wanted this. Our country has been given away, and it is disgusting that they have actually just given away our country without asking us.
Sherry, you're absolutely right. You are absolutely right to say that all of this was done without anybody being asked. You are absolutely right to say that. And I saw last night.
I cannot believe what's happened.
I saw last night, Sherry, on the evening news, Peter Mandelson, Lord Mandelson, being asked what he thought, and he condemned what had happened. But it was Blair and Mandelson, wasn't it, in 1997, who said later they were sending out search parties all over the world to get people from different countries to come to Britain because they wanted to rub the noses of the right in diversity. I would argue...
But they should be in prison. The two of them should have been in prison. I never slept last night for what happened in Ireland and somebody being made out to be something he wasn't. And I won't sleep tonight because the truth of the matter is, Nigel, we have no country left to say.
Do you actually think that it's too late, or do you think that we've got to try incredibly hard, given that we've got people of different religions here, given that we've got segregation in some of our towns and cities, and I do understand that, I've seen it firsthand. Surely, given where we are, I mean, like you, I'd like to hear an apology from people that have done this, but don't we have to try our damnedest to get people working and living together?
I was spat at in a sweet shop in Birmingham. My family, God is my witness, because I had a cross on. I was told to get out of my own country.
Right, Sherry.
I have dogs. I can't walk near mosques. We've had enough. The genuine British people have had enough. We are not, as Christians, Sikhs, Jews, anyone driving down the road killing everyone. Islam is not...
Sherry, I get your anger. I get your anger. I understand the frustration. I understand your criticism of much of what has been done, but I would argue incredibly strongly that we can't just give up. We can't just say, that's it. We're not going to get communities assimilating and working together. We've got to try our damnedest to. And very interested to hear what callers have got to say about what Sherry said in that call. I'm going to go to Gary in Sidcup. Gary, good evening. What do you make of this? What do you make of this debate about division within our society and division between us and the politicians?
I think people are disillusioned, really, to be honest with you, because, you know, I'm just a normal bloke. You walk down the street, everyone's saying the same thing. I think the answer is, OK, due respect, Muslims, not in our name. They're not Muslims. They are Muslims, whatever. It's like saying McGuinness, whatever, wasn't a Catholic. Why don't the Muslim community get together and all throughout the world and have a 1 million strong march, 10 million strong march, not in our name? I refuse to believe they don't know who these people are in areas. Why don't they get together? It's all very well saying it after a terrible thing that happened yesterday. Where are the people marching, saying, not in the name of Islam, not in the, well, this is not, you know, I don't see it.
So, Gary, you're saying that what needs to happen is the vast majority of Muslims in this country who are as appalled by what happened yesterday, and who, interestingly, Gary, are likely to have their lives impacted far worse than you will and I will. You want them to stand up and start shouting, yeah?
No, not me. Let them
No. You want them to.
People which are 99.9%, I do believe, are peaceful people. You know, they are.
No.
But let them get on the street and say it.
Gary, let's encourage them. Let's take Gary's call. We want to hear from you. I've got a friend, Gary, who's Muslim. He's horrified by what's happening in this country because of the way that people now look at him in the street. It can't be good. I'm going to ask Ali in Wimbledon. Ali, is there a problem? Is there a division within Islam in Britain?
No, I don't think there is. The point is that a lot of Muslims are ringing in and they're saying that these people aren't Muslim. The fact is that they are Muslim, but the actions that they're doing are not Islamic. So there's a distinction.
Okay.
It's like a Christian in America blowing up an abortion clinic in the name of Christianity. Does that make it a Christian teaching? Or is it like a Buddhist monk marauding around Burma, slaughtering Rohingya Muslims, burning their bodies and decapitating them? Does that mean it's a Buddhist teaching? So, you know, there are Buddhists, there are Christians, there are Muslims carrying out acts supposedly in the name of their religion, but it doesn't make it a teaching of their faith. Now, the people that are committing these acts, our intelligence services have concluded, rightly, that the majority of the people who are doing these acts actually have very little knowledge of their faith. Most of them are youngsters who are easily brainwashed and manipulated into believing that the Quran may say certain things that they should carry out. Now, the mentality of these people is that it's an eye for an eye. So because you're killing our Muslim brothers and sisters in places like Syria, the U.S. coalition bombed a hospital and a school last week and killed over 80 people that nobody has even spoken about on LBC. I don't think there was a single conversation about these aspects. So there's little balance in this debate. So they believe that it's an eye for an eye. If you kill us, then we will come to your streets and kill you.
But that doesn't make it right, does it?
No, of course not. That's the whole point. Two wrongs don't make a right.
No,
they can't use that as justification.
No.
To say that because you're killing us over there, we will kill you over here. But that's how they're brainwashed. They see the images on the internet, they see the images on social media, and they believe that they must do something in the name of Islam to carry out revenge. Now, there's no difference that someone from the far right will see that all these immigrants are coming into this country, or Muslims are killing white people in this country, and therefore they must go out on the street and kill a politician, for example, in revenge.
Well, Ali, we did see this. It did happen during the referendum. But the counter-argument is that attacks that have been carried out in the name of Islam, and I take your point about Christians and abortion clinics and different interpretations, but this has been happening, hasn't it, in Brussels? It's been happening in Paris, it's been happening in Nice, and now it's happened again in London. And I mean, we've had a couple of people on tonight. I mean, do you accept, Ali, that there are, in the latter parts of the Quran, some phrases that perhaps are troubling in the sense that they are picked up and interpreted in a violent way?
They are, but as you have to understand with a book that was revealed over 23 years. Now, this comes with knowledge. Knowledge is so important in these aspects that there are verses when the Prophet, peace be upon him, Muhammad, peace be upon him, moved to Medina, the verses of jihad were revealed.
Yes.
Now, these verses of jihad were very specific to the conflict the Muslims were having with the Quraysh, the pagan Arabs, who were persecuting the Muslims and slaughtering them in Mecca, which is why the Prophet moved to Medina. Now, the Muslims had to defend themselves from the attacks of the Quraysh and their allies, and hence came the verses of jihad.
Yeah, Ali, I think we're maybe getting a bit too theological here, but you've made some very thoughtful and very interesting points, and I thank you. Right now, you're listening to the Nigel Farage Show exclusively on LBC. It's 7:47.
Coming up at 8 on LBC, Clive Bull.
As London sends out a message of resilience and business as usual, are there nevertheless lessons to be learned from the Westminster terror attack?
Clive Bull on LBC.
If you own a Swiss watch and it's time to sell it, speak to watches.co.uk. The whole process runs like clockwork. Rolex, Patek Philippe, Omega and more. It only takes a couple of ticks and we pay immediately. Or if you just fancy a change, we could take yours in part exchange. From time on your hands to money in your pocket, it couldn't be easier with watches.co.uk. The pre-owned Swiss watch specialist.
Writing job descriptions, managing candidates, setting up interviews. Hiring's hard. But Indeed.com makes it easy. Post your job, organise candidates, schedule interviews. All on the UK's #1 job site. And with more people in the UK using Indeed than any other job site, easy works. Find your next hire at Indeed.com today. Terms, conditions, quality standards and usage limits apply. UK's #1 job site based on total unique visitors to Indeed.com.
Life is shaped by choices. Head or heart, dress up or dress down, peanuts or Percy Pigs. At M&S Bank, we know choice is everything. That's why our credit card lets you select the offer that suits your needs, because nobody knows what's best for you like you. For more information, search M&S Bank. Credit available subject to status to UK residents age 18 or over. 18.9% APR representative. Terms and conditions apply.
Divorce can be expensive. It affects your finances, assets, home, savings, pension, and most of all, your relationship with your children. It's probably one of the toughest times you'll ever go through. Cordell & Cordell understands these issues and helps men maximise their roles in their children's lives. Call now on 0330 60 60 161 or visit cordellcordell.co.uk. Office in central London. A partner men can count on.
This is a live update for UK businesses. Right now, you can find essential information and services about selling overseas through the government's website for exporters. Find the right information and help to grow your business. Visit great.gov.uk.
The Global Academy is a state school for 14 to 19-year-olds interested in a media career. Our next Meet the Principal Day is on the 27th of March. Register now at globalacademy.com.
Sleep Centres have been selling beds for over 40 years. With 5,000 beds in stock, our Sleep Centre specialists are here to help you choose the right one for you. And right now, every bed is reduced by up to half price, plus free delivery and free disposal of your old one. But hurry, it's this month only. Hamsey Sleep Centres in London, the South East and online at hamseys.co.uk. Conditions apply.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC.
Our political leaders say after that day of terror yesterday that we are united as a nation. I don't think we are, and certainly the phone calls would suggest there are some pretty big divisions out there, and certainly what's happening on our Facebook messaging page and our texts and tweets would suggest there are some really big divisions. Divisions amongst people who say they are practicing Muslims, and divisions between people who think that our government, successive governments, have actually caused much of this. I'm going to ask Naeem in St Albans what he makes of this debate. Good evening.
Good evening, Nigel. I believe I agree with you. We are not united. We are not united. And I'll say that on two levels. In the context of this particular incident that's happened, we are certainly not united. And the reason why we're not united is because we all have ignorance. And there's ignorance on two levels here. The first thing is, my Muslim brothers and sisters out there that are listening, you need to learn how to refute ISIS. You need to learn what to say, why we're refuting ISIS, and what the differences are between what their perverted understanding of Islam is and what the true essence of Islam is. That's the first point. And the only way you're going to do that is by understanding the mindset of the people who are perpetrating these sort of these ridiculous atrocities. There's a book called Refuting ISIS. It's out there. Mm-hmm. My daughter is studying politics at university. She's reading that book with her colleagues. It's really, really engaging. It's really, really mind-opening, and it articulates it very, very clearly how to refute ISIS. That's the first ignorance that we as Muslims have to deal with.
So Naeem, was Gary from Sidcup right when he said that actually wouldn't it be a fantastic thing if 1 million Muslims in this country marched?
Well, what is that going to do? We've done that before. We've marched before. All over the world we've marched. What's that going to do? We need to understand the root cause, and we need to come to common ground. You get unity, Nigel, by having common ground. Now, the common ground isn't there. That's why we're disunited. So what's the other side to this? And I'll explain to you. Non-Muslims and Muslims need to understand the true essence of Islam. Now, what you're getting at the moment, and what everybody's getting, even Muslims, even my kids are practicing Muslims like me.
Yep.
And they're getting a perception of Islam that is distorted. So we're all suffering the same problem. And ignorance is prevailing. And if you allow ignorance to prevail, you're going to get disunity. So we come to common ground. We all agree these are atrocities. We agree that. Non-Muslims need to understand what Islam is about. If they don't, they're going to live in ignorance, and they're going to be ignorant the whole of their life. Muslims need to take responsibility as far as, not the atrocities, but understanding what is the difference. What is the difference? These people are calling themselves Muslims. It's very easy to say, this guy's not a Muslim. But that's not my judgment. That's the judgment of God.
Well, they believe they are named, don't they?
Right. Yeah, they believe they are. And because they believe they are, that's a problem for me. Mm. Because how many mouths am I going to shut? I'm going to say to you, Nigel, this guy's not a Muslim. Mm. I'm going to speak to my work colleagues, this guy's not a Muslim. But I need to give more substance and say why they're not a Muslim. Why they're doing these things. Do you see what I'm saying, though?
No, I do. I get what you're saying, and I understand that. And Naeem, whichever way we look at it, you're right. There is a lack of common ground here between parts of your religion, or those who think they're part of your religion, in our country. Thank you. Your texts, the ones that I can read out. Hi, Nigel. Yes, there is division in our country. I'm non-religious and believe one good move is to ban the burqa, which isn't a religious garment. That comes from John. Nigel, Gary was spot on by saying we want a march, 1 million-strong march of Muslims, saying not in our name, like we did against the Iraq War, which Blair led us into, says Barry in Enfield. A tweet, Sadiq Khan is in an excellent position to lead a march for peaceful Muslims. Why not? We need to see proof of the 99% who are peaceful. That comes from Audrey Young. 99% is a very high figure, Audrey. After the 7/7 bombings, there were suggestions that the minority that had some sympathy was bigger than 1%. By no means massive, but bigger than 1%. There is a division out there. Martin in Canary Wharf, what is your interpretation? Are we divided as a nation?
It depends, isn't it? I mean, I'm a little bit upset with you, to be honest.
Right.
Can't say so. You keep bringing the religion into it. I mean, what's the religion got to do with
No, my callers do, Martin. My callers do.
You seem to be a very smart man saying that the Quran, the later part, is quite violent.
Am I wrong?
Have you read the Quran? Have you read it?
Do you know what I've done?
I've sat. No, you are wrong because you need to read it to understand it, and I know for sure you haven't read it.
I've sat down, Martin, with one of the leading Islamic scholars in the world, and I've asked him to explain to me. After decades of studying, I've asked him to explain to me why there is a problem, and there does appear to be, for some people, an interpretation that leads to bad things.
Can I ask you? You're a Christian, I presume. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, are you aware that the Christianity, the Judaism, and Islamic faith, they all pray to the same God? Are you aware of that?
I certainly am, Martin. Thank you.
Yeah. And if you were to go into the church and people, one caller just, or you read someone's text saying that they should ban the burqa. You know that Mary is wearing a hijab.
Yes.
When you go into the church, you know that.
Yeah,
right?
but Martin, I've said this with the previous caller. We haven't really got time. Now, if you don't want to listen, I've got a problem. But we don't want to go too much into theology, all right? But the basic question, our leaders are saying we're united as a country, and events like yesterday make us all feel closer together. Is that right or isn't it?
No, we are united because we all have common sense and common ground. This horrific act that's done, people should not interpret it into a faith, because it's not. He killed innocent people.
I know that.
It could have been my family or your family.
Yeah, Martin, I completely.
He rammed the cars into people who he didn't even know.
And the point that gets made that often terrorism that takes place in the name of Islam kills more people from that religion than anybody else. I get it, Martin, I do. My final thought on all of this, it is perfectly clear from everything we've seen this evening that there are some big divisions that exist in this country within Islam. It is all about the Quran, the interpretation of it. I would have thought the healthiest thing would be if there was a big public debate and a lot more knowledge about this. But I also feel myself, and we've focused less on this, but I also feel myself there is actually very real division between the politicians' approach to dealing with radicalisation in our schools, in our prison, within our country, what we do in terms of accepting migrants into Britain, and what the public want. And I think they want action. You've been listening to The Nigel Farage Show on LBC. I'm back on Monday evening from 7. Coming up at 10, it's Ian Collins, but up next, it's Clive Bull.
Thank you, Nigel. So, as London sends out a message of resilience and business as usual,